Hey guys, Jeff back with another video. If you watched my previous What's in the Shop video, then you know that I just got my Conan the Barbarian Super 7 comic book figure. I'm a big fan of Conan the Barbarian. I've been reading the comic book ever since the early 80s when Marvel was doing it. When Marvel lost the license to Conan the Barbarian and Dark Horse Comics picked it up, I thought that they did the best adaptation of the Robert E. Howard books in comic book print. They really had a lot of great stories with a really lot of good artists. I was a little sad when Dark Horse lost the license and it went back to Marvel. Marvel's a little sketch sometimes, but I will admit that Marvel recently, these are the first issues of both Conan the Barbarian and the Savage Sword of Conan, have been doing a great job with this character. They've stayed true to Conan. They have amazing artists. The stories have been really, really good. So I definitely would recommend those. And I don't recommend a lot of Marvel comics. Not anymore. But my first exposure to Conan actually was the movie, the very first one with Arnold. My dad actually took me to see that in the movie theaters. It was a little shocking when you're a really, really little kid and you get to see nudity, violence at that level, giant snakes, sorcery, swords, and all that jazz. I was hooked after that. You could probably say that I'm a product of 80s toxic masculinity. That's the buzzword they like to use now, which is great because I love being a product of that time period. But this video isn't about that. It's about this figure right here. This is the Super 7 figure itself. As you can see, it has amazing packaging. Super 7 really did a great job with this. The figure itself, I believe, and I'm sure they'll get some comments, but I believe it's based on the Masters of the Universe Classics body style and articulation and molds. But we're going to take him out of the box. We're going to take him back into the shop on my bench and do a nice review of him. I love Conan. He's one of my favorite characters, like I mentioned. It's a shame that, they haven't been able to capture him in cinema the way they really should. I know they did a cartoon in the early 90s, and then later in the late 90s, they did a live-action series with a German bodybuilder. Both of those weren't very successful. Most recently, the Jason Momoa Conan the Barbarian had a lot of potential, but it just didn't have a very good storyline. Hopefully, one of these days, maybe Jason can reprise his role in an Apple or a Netflix or an HBO or some type of series for cable, because I think that would be a really good venue for Conan the Barbarian to reemerge in today's world. But with that being said, we're going to go back to the shop and we're going to take a look at Conan. So let's do it. Come with us to the Hyperborean Age. Come with us back to the dark centuries which sprawl between the sinking of Atlantis and the dawn of recorded time. To the days when the now forgotten land of Aquilonia was the mightiest of nations, and a man's life was worth no more than the strength of his sword arm. Come with us to the raw, untamed world of Conan the Barbarian. That's the back package reading of this figure from Super 7. Conan the Barbarian. Made to order Deluxe comic book edition figure. It's a pretty cool figure, guys. I can't really say enough about it. This is the first Super 7 figure that I've ever bought, and I got to tell you, I'm really, really impressed with it. I've seen a lot of the Super 7 Masters of the Universe figures, and I've toyed with buying them, but there just was so many that came out that I just kind of passed on that since I collect so much other stuff. With this figure here, I'm really glad that I pulled the trigger on him. He stands a little bit over 7 inches tall. He has great articulation in his hips, feet, knees, arms. If you're familiar with the Masters of the Universe style figures, then you'll know that it's a real similar articulation to those. Something of note when I pre-ordered the figure and then they started having all the issues, Super7 was kind enough to include a special bloody weapons accessory pack for all our troubles. And that's what my Conan figure is holding right now. As you can see, he came with a extra head and then the regular weapons pack, which is kind of cool. So I have double weapons. I'll probably always display them with the bloody weapons. And it's got the nice intro that I read on the back here. That's cool. The sculpt is really, really nice. The paint is also really, really nice. This figure, I don't know what the issues they had with it, but if they were trying to make it perfect, then I'm pretty sure that they did. Funny thing is, if you read the modern Marvel series right now, Savage Sword of Conan, I think 7, 8, and 9 feature this almost exact figure with his necklace, the old Greek style sandals. Doesn't have the helmet, but it's a really close copy of this figure. The head sculpt is, I guess, the battle head sculpt, I'd call it, where he's getting ready to whack some people. He has a nice dagger that sticks to his belt. It's got a nice little sculpted in slot for the dagger. He's a really sturdy figure too. I mean, the joints are super tight on him. He stands almost perfectly. It's also a nice, robust figure. Like, this thing is made really, really well. So if he fell off my shelf, I wouldn't worry about anything breaking off of him. One thing I did notice is this little portion of hair right here. That would give me a little bit of concern because that might have potential to break off at some time. But that's if, like, I was messing with him a ton. But I'm just going to display him in my office once we go back to work. But, man, I just love this figure. It's really cool. And you know, it's got me kind of hooked on some of Super7's other figures. I kind of wish I would have bought the Thundercats line as well. But that's all right. This figure retailed for around $40, I think, plus shipping. So that was a really good bargain for me. Considering what I got, this is going to be probably one of my better figures I have displayed at my office. I have a few Mezco 1/12 figures, and I have to say that I actually like this style of figure better than the Mezco ones right now. Even though he's a little bit taller than the 1/12 figures at 7 inches, I just think that this guy is going to be kind of a gem in my collectibles lineup at my office when I display him. He's got nice articulated hands. Gives him that spear throwing motion. He's nice and posable too. I mean, considering the articulation on it, I can pose this guy in several different ways. I mean, that's cool. I mean, he doesn't have like the super butterfly joints or what they're called, but on the elbows. But this is just a cool figure. I really, really enjoy this guy. I would highly suggest, if you're a fan of Conan, seeing if Super7 still has these, because I think this is going to be a pretty collectible figure. I will put in, I mentioned I do have the McFarlane toys, one of the Conans, so there he is for reference. I always like this figure too. I like that style of Conan, but this original, I guess, first appearance of Marvel Comics figure is great. So my Conan lineup is starting to slowly get bigger. I do have the Mezco Conan on pre-order, and when I get him in this fall, I'll do like a maybe video showing all three of these guys together. But yeah, this is definitely worth the wait. Kudos to Super7 because they knocked it out of the park with this figure. I'm just really excited to have it. So yeah, I think this is a 10 out of 10 for me. I hope you guys enjoyed the review. I mean, I don't really know what else to say about this figure other than it's pretty gosh darn awesome. So I'd go out and definitely try to find it and add it to your collection. It'd be cool to go with the Masters of the Universe figures. I know they're not really in the same time continuum, but it'd be just cool to have Conan alongside He-Man kicking some ass. But there you go. This is the Conan Made to Order Deluxe Edition comic book figure from Super7. Shout out to Super7. I have a Halloween pail, and now I have this figure. I do have the Voltron Deluxe figure coming as well, so can't wait to get it and do a review. Super excited, guys. I hope you like this review. Like and subscribe to the page. Share the videos. Skunkworks. Cheers.